that could be considered a rational thought.
Of course, we have rational thoughts. We have those all the time in the show. I just love that opening because it makes me laugh. Today's guest is man. It's rare to get somebody on the show who's not only a brilliant author, a great businessman, also a dear friend. So I could wax on for hours about this guy, but we're gonna do that with him on the camera, on the hot seat here. He has got such a amazing history to him. I'm not gonna give you a long introduction. Just understand this man has got more wisdom and life experience than all of us put together, and he's here to share with us today. So welcome to the show, Mr. Les Whitney. Les, how are you today?
I'm well. How are you today?
Doing good, thank you. So we also want to start show for some reason to want to, people are looking at this, looking at our good looking faces going, why should I listen to these guys today? And the reason would be,
well, no matter what happens in our life, I really believe we can find a good life ahead of us. And so everything I do is about living a good life for the rest of my life, regardless of what's happened to me.
Which means a lot coming from you. And we're going to find out why in a minute. But living a good life is easy when there's, I'll just put it bluntly, when there's, no end in sight. Your life's ahead of you. You got a lot to look forward to. But in your case, you had some news a few years ago that was unusual for most people. So you want to share with us what that was and give us your background?
Sure. In January of 2019, I was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor and stage 4 lung cancer. I had about a 50% chance to make it through 2019 and about a 1% chance to make it to today. And here I am living a great life. I have had so many wonderful lessons and wonderful gifts that have happened to me as a result of this journey. And I'm still here and thriving. And yet there's a good chance I won't be here next Christmas. So I live every day as if it's my last.
Because someday you'll be right. And it's,
yes.
But 1% chance, a 1% chance you'd be here today. That was from the lung or the brain cancer, or which part of it? I mean, it's
the lung cancer, stage 4, incurable stage 4 lung cancer. Yeah. The brain tumor, because we caught it, we were able to get rid of it through surgery.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. So Les, that's number one. Thank you so much for being on the show today. It means a lot. And I've known you since I've been talking for a while now about your journey. And I'm always re-impressed with your attitude and whatnot. And that's not to say you didn't have some down moments, but throughout it all, because there's been I think you told me 67 chemo treatments so far.
67 chemo treatments.
And the average person goes through how many?
8 to 10 with, different types of cancer have different types of treatment.
Right.
But 8, 10, 12, and then they're in remission.
Right.
Mine, it's the chemo is not designed to cure me. The chemo is to keep the cancer from growing. And so I have to get it every 3 weeks for the rest of my life.
Jeez. And number one, you got all your hair, which is unusual. So we like that. I don't think people who haven't experienced that understand how debilitating that is when you go through that treatment. So you want to give us a little background on what that's like to go and get that and how you feel whatnot when you go through that?
Well, chemo is probably the most awful experience anyone can go through. It's awful. I get the chemo on a Friday, and as soon as I walk out of the chemo, I'm exhausted. I'm ready to fall asleep. We go home, and I just turn into a zombie. Yeah. What's interesting is my brain goes away. My brain turns to mush. I cannot think clearly. I can't do any kind of cognitive work for 4 or 5 days. It lasts that long. So the first couple of days, I can function in the morning a little bit. By the afternoon, I'm just kind of in a malaise. And, again, it's the mental part there for the first 2 days. The third and fourth day, I am sick. I am horribly sick. I just feel awful. It's like the worst flu anyone could ever have. And then by the 5th day after chemo, I'm starting to come out of it, and I can start functioning as a human being again. And day 6 and 7 is when I'm back to normal. And then I get 2 more weeks before I get to do it all over again.
And somehow through all of this, you've managed to, just in this past year, I think, I've been to Japan, I've been to Canada. I mean, you haven't let it really, as much as you can, you haven't let it really interrupt your life.
Right. My travel is so important to my wife and me. And so when we can, we fit in travel. We try to travel almost between every session. We don't know how many more trips we're going to have because of my situation. So we fit them in wherever we can. And you did forget the country of Colombia that we hit in February of last year too.
Maybe I have some brain fog, but I have no excuse for it. So that's okay. That's amazing. So give us a little bit of background on your business acumen first, because people don't understand. Hey, just suffering or going through this journey is one thing, but the fact that you've also built this amazing several companies before that probably adds to the what I thought is very interesting about your story.
Well, it's interesting. So I ran 4 different companies over about a 20-year period. I started 2 of them, and I was a hired gun CEO for 2 of them. And every one of the companies ended up selling at the end. And so it was, it was a great journey, a great experience to have that. But even more valuable for me is after that, I mentored CEOs for 17 years. And that experience through Vistage Worldwide, which is a wonderful organization, I learned so much about myself, about the human being, about resilience, about the mindset. The mindset is what controls everything. And I was able to help so many others become successful in business and in life by just working on their mindset. And now I've had to work on my own life with my own mindset. And so the lessons I worked with others has helped me immensely in my life.
Wow. How full circle on that. When you work with these CEOs, I'm always curious about that. And I've got a couple friends, Vistage, of course, the one who introduced us, Miriam. But I'm always curious about these men and women who have built great enterprises, right? $5, $10, $20 million, $100 million companies. And yet when you have to coach them, consult with them one-on-one, they're like everybody else, right? They got the same struggles and challenges we all have.
Yes. Same struggles, same challenges, same fears. Each one's different. Each one has something that prevents them from going to the next level, or something that holds them back in some way. And through my questioning and my efforts in working with them, I find out what that is, and then I help them overcome those things.
Wow.
See, most people that run companies have this thing called the fraud syndrome. You and I've never talked about this, but they have the fraud system, and they are so afraid that someone's going to figure out at some point that they don't have a clue what they're doing. And the only thing that makes them different from you and me is they're willing to make decisions. They're willing to take on the challenge, and they know they don't know what they're doing, but they're going forward. Or the rest of us not knowing what we're doing stop us.
Is that the number one discussion when you have these one-on-ones with them? Is
none of them will admit it. And so
how do they say it?
But I know it. I can hear it in how they answer questions and how they respond. They would never say, no, I see myself as a fraud. But they do admit when I talk about that there is that fear that they really are faking it.
So I'm curious where that comes from when you talk to people. They've got this successful enterprise. We can just pick an anonymous one or something. They built something with employees and revenue, and some of them even have like tremendous exits. Like you've had a couple of great exits with your companies. Why do they think they are a fraud? What is this going on there?
Well, because they've never been there before. They've never, this is the first thing they've ever run, the first company. And every decision they make, it's the first time they're making that decision. Other people may have done it, but they're doing it for the first time. And so they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't done this before. I'm just guessing. And more often than not, they guess right.
Interesting. And so they're guessing and you help them realize that. How do you coach them to make them feel confident about themselves? What are they saying?
I ask questions. Again, questions are the key to everything. So I'll ask them about what they believe is going to happen. And then I ask them, and if that doesn't happen, then what? or what's
Mhm.
possible. See, all of us have self-limiting beliefs, these
Right.
beliefs that put a brake on what we're doing. And all I have to do is make it clear that that's just a belief and not a fact, because these are beliefs masquerading as fact. So if I can get them to understand that their beliefs are not facts, then they can go forward.
So Les, I've never asked this question of you before. This would be good for us then. So your belief, I'm not sure what it is now because the doctor told you one thing, and you say, "Okay, I'm going to die sooner than everybody. Sooner, I got a clock here."
Yeah.
And is your belief that go to hell? I'm going to just live anyway, or do you? How do you walk that line between reality and useless hope?
Well, actually, I believe I'm going to die. I believe cancer is going to kill me.
Okay.
And so I've got that off the table now, because to me, that's a fact. That cancer is going to kill me. There is no cure for it unless we get a miracle and there's a new cure. It's going to kill me. So that's a fact. Now I get to choose how I live every day, knowing that I know it's going to kill me. And I also know I'm going to be sick 1 week out of 3. So that means I got 2 weeks out of 3 that are going to be awesome. And I can
Right.
live them any way I want. And that's how I go forward. I make sure that those 2 weeks are the best ever for me and for my wife.
So I'm no doctor or therapist or anything, but it feels to me as though that belief that, hey, it's going to happen, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. I'm going to live fully. Maybe that's one of the main reasons your life is being extended beyond what the doctors thought.
My doctors are trying to figure out why. They don't. In fact, I gave my doctor a copy of my book, Cancer's Gifts, because
Mhm.
the doctor, he was he's like, I don't get it. I've never had anyone go through 67 chemo sessions. I have never had anyone live as full of life as you do. He said to me, he says, I live vicariously through you. Here I am. I'm a cancer patient. I'm sick 1 week out of 3. My life is limited, and yet
Yeah.
he looks at me as a guy with a life to admire, and I think that's pretty cool.
That's very cool. Your message needs to get out to anyone who's going through any kind of serious illness. I think it's an amazing story and journey. And I held the book up earlier, so I'll do it again. This is the Cancer's Gifts by Les Whitney. There it is. I put the camera. There we go. A loving journey towards the final chapter. So you're definitely calling it out. Hey, this is going to end. It's going to take you out, but you love the journey.
Yes,
Apparently
and I
so.
love my publisher for coming up, helping me create that title. Yeah, who was that?
Yeah, some guy. Yeah, I have the ability to feature my own clients on here, of course. Yes. Tell us more about why you decided to write this book. Then, it's also on that topic. You've got this great life. You're busy traveling the world, living as fully as you can. A week every 3, or every 2 rather. How are you flex that? Every 3 weeks you have chemo.
2 weeks out of every 3.
2 weeks every 3. Yeah. What made you decide to, write this book?
Well, since the day I was diagnosed, I blogged on a website called caringbridge.org.
Yeah.
Wonderful website for people who are going through life-threatening diseases, a way to keep all your friends in touch. I turned mine into a blog, and I had nearly 50,000 visits on my blog.
Wow.
And so many people said, Les, turn this into a book. There's such an important message in here.
Yeah.
And so I met with your organization, and we talked about taking my blog and turning it into a book. And that was why I did it. I did it. Well, the primary reason I did it is because I know I'm going to die. And I wanted my wife to be able to go to people who had never met me and said, you never met my husband. Read this book, and this will let you know who he is or who he was. And that was the primary reason I wrote the book.
I love that. And apparently it's turned into more than just a expose for your wife's friends or for future people. There's a lot more than that now. You've done some speaking. You're donating proceeds to some charities and whatnot. Tell us about that.
Okay, I am starting to speak all around the community. The fun thing is, every time I've spoken, I've gotten a standing ovation. So that feeds my ego quite well. I love that.
Nothing wrong with that.
But I decided you know, we've lived a good life, my wife and I. We're in a position where we can live the way we want to live for the rest of our lives. We're
Yeah.
retired. And so I thought, well, every dollar of royalties I receive from my
Hmm.
book will go to one of three charities. We'll go to
Hmm.
three different charities. It'll go
Yeah.
to American Cancer Society,
Hmm.
caringbridge.org for helping me with my message, and the
Hmm.
Rotary Foundation because I've been a lifelong Rotarian.
Ah, nice, nice. Okay, that's a beautiful thing. So when going through this book, and I did read it a couple times, like you did, I'm sure. Um, I found that you probably picked up a medical degree while you're doing all this stuff. You've learned quite a bit. What were some of the surprising things, other than the fact you're still here? What's one of the surprising things as you recall and you look back on your own journey?
Wow. I think first off, how everyone's response to medicine and chemo is different.
Hmm.
There's no roadmap for anyone. All of us are going to react to it in a different way,
Right.
and the doctors don't really know how to tell. At least my experience has been they don't know how to tell me these are the things that can happen to you. This is what it's going to be like, and that's part of why I wrote the book and gave it to my doctors because I really spell out what I go through each week, each month.
Yeah.
I spell it out, and so people can understand the physical and emotional turmoil of
Hmm.
going through treatments for cancer or just
Hmm.
what it does to the human psyche to be ill and
Right.
to have your family and all your loved ones so concerned about my well-being
Yeah.
and they're worried about it. So I have to help them feel better too. Well, I'm trying to make myself feel better.
You're teeing up my next question about that because what I found fascinating and having gone through other friends and relatives passing, whatnot, people trying to make you feel better about it, whatnot, we don't know what to say. I don't know what to say when someone dies. I don't know what to say when someone's dying. And you cover that very well in your book, Les. So I'd love for you to take a few minutes and explain to people how to help others when they're watching or observing or even going through this journey like this.
Well, a few minutes is tough to get it all in a few minutes, but
Okay, take 5. I'll give you 6 minutes. It's your show. It's
I
okay.
did make a list of 7 things that I felt helped me as I was going through it from friends. But the main
Mhm.
thing is to acknowledge, Les, I understand you're sick. I get it. And
Yeah.
I want to understand what you're going through, Les. I don't want to tell you, don't worry about it. Don't put any burden on me. Just listen to how I'm feeling. Anyone who is willing to just listen to me talk about my how I'm feeling bad. And then when I say, oh, I'm feeling like I'm gonna throw up. How's that for graphic? And they say, oh no, you shouldn't. I don't want to hear that. Just say, oh, I know that's tough. I get it. I understand. So that kind of thing really helps. Another thing that really helps is caregivers have such a burden. My wife has such a burden in taking care of me.
Yeah.
And what we need is a project manager. There's medications, there's appointments, there's so much
Oh,
going
yeah.
on. And
Mhm.
I literally, my brain doesn't function 1 week out of 3. So for me to try to organize my life and keep track of my medicines and everything, it's just too much. And so
Yeah.
if a friend can help with that,
Mhm.
that's big. And
Right.
then when people get very sick, where the caregiver has to be around all the time, there's still a need to get the laundry done, to get the house clean, to buy groceries. And if people would just step up and say, I'm going grocery shopping,
Yeah.
let me pick up some things for you, or even I'll come and make a list in your house. Because
Yeah.
the main thing I don't want is someone to give me more responsibility. So if someone says to me, how can I help? It's like, wait, now it's up to me. You just put something on my plate to figure
So
out how
cure
you can
go
help
with the
me.
cure for cancer while you're thinking of things you can help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. It's so just try to help. Think of for yourself what
Right.
would help me if I was in Les's shoes, and then do
Yeah.
it. And if
Yeah.
you do it, and I don't want it or I don't need it, it doesn't matter. The fact that you did something is so meaningful.
It's so important to not put the burden on you. We don't think we're putting a burden when I say those words, "How can I help?" But yeah, you're making me. Yeah, it's awkward, I'm sure. And there's it'd be easier to talk about what not to say than what to say, because you mentioned a bunch of things that people say, oh, you can fight this, or a lot of times people come back, oh yeah, my dad had that too, type of thing. Like, talking about your dad. It's like,
Exactly. Exactly.
cover those
It's
things. What are some of the common
what
things people are saying they think is helpful, but it's really not?
it's not, well, just, when I say, my cancer is incurable. Oh, you don't know that it's going to be cured. They're going to find something. That's false hope. I mean,
Yeah.
if it happens, great, but I'm not going to
Mhm.
hope for it, because
Yeah.
that takes my energy away from today and puts it on something in the future.
Ah,
I want
nice.
my energy today. So just say, be empathetic. Say,
Mhm.
that's awful. I can't imagine what it would feel like to go through that. And um, if I'm here for you, I just want to hold your hand, Les. I just want to be here with you, if that's
Yeah.
okay. And then being with me, they can see what my needs are, and they
Right.
can step up and help. And the same thing
Mhm.
is, be with my wife. Just be with her. And by
Yeah.
being around her, you can see what her needs are.
Yeah.
My wife's out right now helping senior citizens in our community, because that's her passion. So I'm on this podcast, and she's out helping other people when she's not helping me. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just being helpful, is being present and being
Right.
aware without prescribing.
Yeah.
I get enough
Okay.
prescriptions from my doctors.
That's right. A lot of stuff there. But one of the key things you mentioned, which made me realize a lot when I was talking about this book, was the word fighting it. And
Yeah.
there's a double-edged sword to that. Yeah, of course you want to, you know, I don't know. You tell me your feelings about that when there's people fighting or battling cancer.
I'm not fighting cancer. I'm living with cancer. If
Hmm.
I say I'm fighting it, I'm expecting to win a battle in my mind.
Right.
And
Right.
this is a no-win situation. So
Hmm.
I'm living with cancer. I'm living with this situation. I'm not
Hmm.
fighting it. And that's really important to me. I will not say those words. I won't say the words I'm a survivor,
Yeah, I
because,
understand.
again, survivor means I'm past it to me,
Hmm.
in my
Yeah.
mind. So
Yeah.
I'm not a survivor. I'm living with cancer. I'm going to live with cancer as long as I'm living.
Right.
And I'm good with that because I've accepted it. And
Right.
acceptance is such a key for me.
I'm the more I hear you talk about it, the more I think it also relates to how you have extended your life, because when you're in battle, there's tension, conflict, there's cortisol level changes, there's all that
Yeah.
stuff going on in your psyche that translates to your body. And when you're not fighting, you're at peace. I'm thinking your body's more relaxed, and it can, do what it's gonna do without accelerating it, I think.
I think that's probably true. And people that are a lot more knowledgeable than me would be able to tell you why that works physiologically. But
Yeah.
I believe that's true.
Well, I had one doctor we work with who runs a big cancer clinic out there in Orange County, and people come to her when their primary doctor says, get your affairs in order. They go to her for the Hail Mary, whatnot, and she said, well, I'll try everything, holistic, straight up medicine, whatever. We'll try anything, but she doesn't put a death sentence on anybody. So I don't know when you're gonna go. Only God knows, but we're gonna treat you like you're gonna live. And this one guy had, again, stage 4 something, was pretty serious. And they tried a bunch of things, right? And nothing was working. It got worse, worse, worse. And she says, I don't know. Once you start watching a comedy movie every day, and this guy watched 2 comedies a day, laughed his head off. And in his case, it went into remission and he, came out of it. But I think that attitude, that energy in our bodies has a lot to do with it. And I think that's why you still have your hair, because it looks so dashingly handsome. And
Oh,
67 chemo treatments, my gosh.
keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, we haven't even got the ukulele part yet. That's the one thing I got to hear you play last time I saw you. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
And there's no Tiny Tim here. Your hair is much better than his. For those of you
Yeah,
who know who Tiny Tim was, you got to have gray hair like Les, and I know Tiny Tim, but
that's right.
because the only famous ukulele player besides you is Tiny Tim. All right. So you got this book out. You're speaking. What's your next adventure?
Um, well, I'm starting to push the envelope and do things during my sick days. I went to Japan while I was sick,
Yeah.
and it was miserable. And I told myself never do it again. And now I just signed up to go to Nashville to a national conference for Vistage during my sick days. And so I'm going to just try to push through it even during those situations. But I'm going to Vietnam and Cambodia in February. So
Wow.
that'll be a wonderful experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just looking for speaking opportunities now around the
Right.
community and anywhere where I can share my message and
Right.
get people. I just feel like everyone needs to hear that life is glorious and that no matter what happens, you can have a good life for the rest of your life.
Wow. Means a lot coming from you. Thank you very much. The book is called Cancer's Gifts. You can check it out on Amazon, of course. You can contact Les for speaking arrangements. Do you want to give any contact information, Les, or how they can get hold of you?
They can get a hold of me at an email at les@whitneystrategy.com
Okay.
is a way. You can go to caringbridge.org and type in Les Whitney, and you can see all my updates. I update about every 2 or 3 weeks. I like to tell little stories in my updates. My last update was a story that just received lots of great comments, and get the book. So we go to Amazon and get the book, and you'll learn all about me and who I am as a human being. And
Terrific.
by the way, Doug, thank you and your organization, because I couldn't have written the book without you. You're my publisher, and you've made this. First, you made the process extremely easy for me, which was wonderful. And I think the final product turned out to be pretty nice. So thank you for all you've done and all your effort.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to work with someone as interesting as you, and as like I said, I've learned a lot from my own life. So thank you. Wow. On that note, before I shed a tear, thank you, Les. I appreciate you so much. And all those things he mentioned, folks, his website, email, Caring Bridge, all below in the show notes here. So check that out, and appreciate you. That's a great closing word. Well, Les, let's leave it at that. Thank you very much. Great having you on today.
Thank you, Doug.
You bet. That's the show today. It's Author Your Brand Show. Make sure you're going to want to take notes. I hope you did. If you didn't, click below, because there's show notes there for you. Have a great day.